Already a couple of times now on my channel, I've mentioned some tools that I use to get stuff done, to be productive and healthy in the studio working long hours. Now, some of the software like OmniFocus to organize my thoughts, and some of the hardware like this timer, it's just cheap off Amazon, but this is one of the most important things in my studio because it enables me to stay a bit more healthy than if I didn't have this. The default would be me just sitting in my chair for hours on end, not realizing how long I've been sitting in the chair, not drinking water, not moving my body, and that is disaster in terms of health. I've talked about that before in the previous videos. So this is a massively important tool to stay healthy working long hours. What is also a massively important tool to stay healthy working long hours? This here. Before I had this keyboard, which is the Kinesis Advantage 360 Professional, I had pain in my wrists and in my forearms, like pain along there and in my fingers, and just it was painful. So in short, before this keyboard, pain. After this keyboard, no pain. Incredible. Transformational. It's the OG split mechanical ergonomic concave keyboard. It's been out in one form or another since the 90s and it's absolutely amazing, and I rate this very highly and recommend it. However, when I was talking about it in previous videos, I would inevitably get people turn up in the comments saying, but have you tried the Moonlander? But have you tried the Glove 80? Have you tried this other keyboard? And there's so many of these split mechanical keyboards nowadays, and there's ones on Alibaba, but once you actually look at they look like they're 10 euros, but by the time you actually order it, it's like 250, and then you get it and it's rubbish, and then you waste your money. But out of the actual decent, reliable, mass-produced, sensible, split ergonomic mechanical keyboards, there's a few. Obviously, if you're in the market for something, you're looking about at the competition, and I've excluded them process of elimination for one reason or another. I was like, oh, that one looks all plasticky and fiddly, and that one, I don't know about that, and I don't know about this. And then I settled on this as just the original OG tried and tested keyboard. But I kept getting people talk about the Dygma Defy, and one guy even said that he bought this particular exact keyboard and he liked it, but then he got the Defy and he liked it even more. So then I was intrigued and I looked closer at the Defy, and I saw on their website that they were based in Valencia, Spain. And I'm currently in Spain, and although it wasn't around the corner, it was a bit of a drive, I reached out and I was like, can I just come by and have a look at your keyboard and maybe ask you a few questions? It was like, sure. So the guy was super friendly and he was like, yeah, come down. His name's Mikel, and he was like, come down and have a look. I've like booked in some time. And I thought I'd just pop my head around the door. But I was in there for a couple of hours, 2-3 hours or something. We were talking about so much. I didn't know that you could talk so long about keyboards. And when I went down there, he started pulling out all of these keyboards. He had the Moonlander and the Voyager and the Glove 80 and all of these keyboards. Some of them I hadn't even heard of. He had some really rare exotic ones. He had all of them. And he was pulling them out and he was saying, yeah, this is really good for these reasons, but these are the cons and these are the pros, and this one's really good at that, but this one's better at that, and blah, blah, blah. And when we developed the Defy, we really tried to take all of the best from everything and put it into one keyboard. We've got the Moonlander, we've got the Voyager, we've got the Defy, the Model 100, we've got the Raise 2, the Glove 80, the Kinesis, the original one. And this here is a super early prototype with dual joysticks here. Really interesting design. So we got them all out, and I was looking at them and trying them out and looking at the construction and how the tenting mechanisms work and how the features work and stuff like this. And it was really interesting to see that a lot of what I was kind of guessing from looking at reviews online was kind of true. Like, for example, with the Glove 80, when I was looking at all of the reviews and stuff, it kind of looked a bit plasticky to me, and it kind of looked a bit fiddly with that tenting mechanism. And when I got the chance to look at that keyboard in real life, I could see it looked just as much or even more plasticky as it did to me in those review videos, and the tenting mechanism was indeed fiddly. The tenting stuff built in, like you have to like screw these things out and stuff, it's a tiny bit awkward. It's quite plasticky and lightweight. And the Moonlander, for example, I think that the keyboard looks really aesthetically pleasing, and the kind of thumb cluster thing at the angle is kind of cool, but the tenting mechanism is a bit of a disaster. It's really wobbly and strange, and it's not cheap either. And this is the official stand. You can see it's not all that sturdy. I'm not sure if I'm that into the tenting solution of the moonlander. So that was eye-opening for me as well. And he was showing me all of these other keyboards, like this wooden one that I'd seen before and thought looked really cool, but I'd forgot the name of it. And it was really nice with those round kind of keys there. This one's really nice with the wood. It looks super comfortable to use. We've got the Kinesis, which I'm very familiar with. The Voyager, I feel like it's not really got enough keys. And he lent me a demo unit of the Defy keyboard, and it comes in this really nice travel case. We're going to get into that in a sec. I want to do a quick disclosure though, because I like to be transparent about this. Originally, it's just he would lend it to me for a while, but he said, if you like it and you're actually using it, I'm just going to lend it to you for however long you want it. It's not yours to like sell on or whatever, but if you're actually using it and liking it, then you can just use it for as long as you want. And spoiler alert, I am actually liking it and using it. And the Kinesis Advantage 360 is staying on this particular computer, and this keyboard is on my laptop, which is running Apache Linux, and I'm going to get into the reason why that pairs so nicely with Apache Linux. But if you're using Windows or Mac or something else, you don't need to use Linux to use this keyboard. But I just think it pairs up really nicely. I'll get into that in a sec. But firstly, I just want to discuss the fact what you get when you buy these keyboards, right? Because when you get the Kinesis Advantage 360, it's the OG keyboard. You get a keyboard, you get a cable, and the box that it comes in, right? That's what you get. And it's not like there's anything bad about that. I want a keyboard, you get the keyboard, there's the keyboard. There you go. There's nothing deficient about it. But when you get the Defy, it's a bit of a different experience because it comes in this nice travel case. And when you open this up, you get a whole bunch. Well, here's the keyboard. Firstly, it looks extremely nice. And in here, you've got a whole bunch of cables, short USB-C to USB-C cables, longer USB-C to USB-C. You've got the adapter from USB-C to USB-A, a longer USB-C cable here. And not only does it come with that in this nice travel case and everything, it also comes with a whole bunch of extra keycaps that you can use if you want more blank caps, which we can get into in a sec. And it also comes with this, which is quite interesting. Now, this is a bunch of different mechanical switches, and this is a hot swappable keyboard. So you can use this tool here just to pluck out the switches underneath the keycaps. You can actually pull out the switches themselves, and that's what they look like. And then you can just swap them out with different ones. And so you've got a whole selection kit here of what they sound like, what they feel like. And you've got this little tool here where you can clean some dirt, and you've got some rings that you can use to modify the response of the keys or dampen them. You've got a small cloth here to clean it. And so it's a really nice little extra kit of really cool stuff that you can use to service the keyboard. So you're probably not going to use that extra stuff all the time, but it's a nice little touch, and everything about this keyboard is nice and luxurious and well thought out and aesthetic. But take a look at this keyboard. This has got to be the most aesthetic keyboard in the split mechanical niche. Like, the Kinesis doesn't look bad, it looks kind of old school and cool, but this looks next level. It looks super slick, like modern. Someone described it as looking like a bear paw or something. It looks really cool. And it's also got this kind of like glowing light thing that you see. It's glowing red here because it's not connected to anything. I'll show you the colors in a sec. But all of the keys, every single key on this is got a full RGB illumination underneath it. And on the outside, it's got RGB illumination. And at first I was like, don't care. I don't need to look at the keyboard and see all different colors. I'm not really that bothered about it. And from kind of like a gaming aesthetic perspective of it looks cool, it does look really cool, but I didn't really care because I want to like work and not just like play games and look at flashy lights and stuff. So I didn't really care about the colors at first, but then after I actually started using it, I noticed that it did actually assist in productivity because it's so informative. Every key can have a different color that you set up, and if you hold one key, then all of the keys can change to a different layer and have completely different functions and completely different RGB values to have different colors. And so the colors help you navigate all of the complexity of the keyboard. And this is what I feel that this keyboard really excels at, and I'm going to get into that a bit more in a bit. But the complex stuff that you can use it, for example, I'm using it with Arch Linux, and there's many shortcuts that you use. You barely even use the mouse. And in fact, this keyboard is so powerful and can handle so much complexity that I don't have a mouse connected to the computer when I'm using Arch Linux with this keyboard, because this keyboard can actually act as a mouse. You can actually use this keyboard as a mouse. Like literally, you can move the mouse pointer on the screen. So especially if you're using Linux, and especially if you're using Hyperland, and it's very shortcut keyboard driven, and you're not really using a mouse that much anyway, you can just chuck your mouse away. You just chuck your mouse in the bin. This keyboard will do it all. Now, you don't need to do anything fancy with this keyboard. If you don't even know how to type, this keyboard is better than the Kinesis, because you can literally just like look at the keys and do this. And it's not like you can't get the keycaps for the Kinesis keyboard. You can, but because of the concavity and the more weird design, it's a bit more difficult to get into. This one, you can just look at it, and if you can't touch type, you can just peck away with your fingers, and there's nothing really preventing you from doing that. However, this keyboard goes all the way from 1 to like 100, because with this thing, you've got a whole bunch of layers. You've got the most advanced software that I've seen for a keyboard, with the most crazy stuff that you can do with it, and the way that you can use it. For example, you can have different functions based on holding the key down, or holding the key down and then tapping it, and doing all sorts of stuff that I haven't really even set up, because it's so advanced that I didn't even need to get into that kind of complexity. But if you want something which is as mind-blowingly deep as like the core interface between you and your computer in the most advanced and engaged way, then there's nothing that I've seen that really does it apart from this. This is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, if you go back to the Kinesis keyboard, you can see that the shape is this weird concave shape, like it's like a bowl in there, and all of the keycaps are custom made, and as a consequence, it's not hot swappable, but it is the most ergonomic thing. It's just completely solved the problems that I was having with pain when typing for long hours, and this is absolutely amazing, and I do use and recommend this keyboard 100%. So that's why originally I turned my nose up at the Defy, because like, where's the concavity? That is such a big feature. Where is that? Well, the way that it's solved, instead of having the concave shape, because your fingers are different lengths, right? That's the whole point of having a concave keywell, because where your fingers are different lengths, obviously your middle finger is the longest, so that's gonna have to be deepest there. But instead of doing it like that, they've done it kind of this way, so that your middle finger is longest, so that one is the highest up that way. So they've just solved that in a different way. Now, if you are just interested in ergonomics and you're just typing, you don't want any complex stuff, you don't care about colors, you don't care about anything, you just want a keyboard, you want to type, and you want it to be ergonomic, this is the king. This is 10 out of 10, S tier. Nothing else comes close without going into super expensive, exotic stuff that you need to spend a year learning how to use. Now, this blows everything else away, even the Glove 80. There's nothing that comes close to this. This is the OG, this is the king. This is the pinnacle of ergonomics. If you have pain when typing, get this. And despite the fact it doesn't have all of the fancy features of the Defy, this is what I'd recommend if you have pain, essentially. Now, the Dygma Defy, on the other hand, does a lot that the Kinesis keyboard doesn't do. It's got all of the lighting, it's got all of the fancy features, and it's got better software, in my opinion. It's just all round better in almost every way. It's hot swappable, apart from the ergonomics thing. It can't win over the Kinesis in the ergonomics thing, because this is the king. It's competing against the king. It's very good, but it's not going to win in that particular category. It's going to win in many, or if not all, other categories over this keyboard, but it's not winning in the ergonomics category over the Kinesis. It's still getting 8 out of 10, and for comparison, most of the keyboards like that people use, pretty much any keyboard that anyone is using is going to be a 1 out of 10, because they're not split. They're probably like the butterfly stuff, like the Apple butterfly switches. No, That's all rubbish. That's all 1 out of 10 nonsense. This is a solid split mechanical keyboard, and it's got some of the best inbuilt tenting that I've seen on the market. We're going to get into that in a sec. This has got some of the best software, if not the best software, for the configuration of the keyboard that I've seen on the market. It's called Core, and it's developed in-house by Dygma from a fork of some open source thing, but it's fantastic software and it runs impeccably on Windows, Mac and Linux. So all of the mechanical switches are fully hot swappable. All of the keycaps you can swap for something else. It's super customizable and it sounds very nice indeed. It's a really nice sounding keyboard, and if you're working with the keyboard all day, the sound can actually master more than you think it does. And most of the split mechanical keyboards on the market don't sound good. They've actually gone to great lengths to make this sound good. Now, in terms of the tenting, you flip out these legs here, and you've got these legs that come out, which can go to all sorts of crazy angles. Now, you can go as high as that. So if that's on the table, it's like this kind of angle, which is ridiculous. It's almost vertical. And I don't use it on that setting. I use it on 35 degrees. So I use it like this at 35 degrees. It's a fairly extreme tenting angle, and I find that exceptionally comfortable. Compared to the Kinesis keyboard, this has got a really nice inbuilt tenting feature. You press a button here, and then that goes up or down. But notice it's not very big, the difference in the angle that you can get. I put it on a higher setting, and it's not that extreme. Despite the fact you can't go super extreme with the tenting, it doesn't really matter because this is still king. On the higher setting, it's pretty much perfect for me anyway. So if we compare the two keyboards here, you can see that if I put my hand on the Kinesis keyboard, that's an incredibly natural position. My hand is extremely relaxed, and if I'm typing, that is pretty much the king ergonomic position, which I don't think you can get any better than. But some people don't actually like this concavity, the tenting, and they want something lower profile, something flat. You can see that the height here of the Kinesis keyboard is there's a night and day difference. It is like even if we put at the lowest setting on the Kinesis keyboard, it's still a night and day difference in terms of the height. So if you're looking for low profile, the Defy definitely wins there. However, for me, I absolutely love the position that my hand is in on the Kinesis keyboard here. So with the Defy, I will actually tent it to get a better position for my personal taste and comfort, and I'll show you that now. So on the back of the Defy, we've got some screw holes for mounting. I've not done that myself. We've got this foot that flips out. I don't use that one. The ones that I use, you flip out these, and then you can flip out this to a whole bunch of angles. If you want a low angle here, you can use this one. Or if you want a more extreme angle, you can use this one. Now I use 35, and I'll set that up and show you what 35 looks like now. Now that we put it at 35, you can see that the difference in height is now not like it was before. They're almost the same height because that's the kind of angle that I've become used to and that I like. And the problem with tenting on a lot of stuff, especially inbuilt tenting, is that it can have stability issues. The Kinesis one, this is rock solid. Like this is not going anywhere. This feels like really solid. I can put my hand on this and not worry about it falling over or coming loose or something. And on the Defy, it's actually very surprisingly stable as well. It's not as solid. There is some slight movement if I put my hand on it like this. If I like bash it pretty hard like that's going a bit overboard, but it's still pretty solid. So it's surprisingly solid, but you can see there's a tiny bit of movement in it as opposed to this, which is like a rock. But in practice, this is incredibly solid, and even putting like weight on it and stuff, it's not moving very much, and I can type on this like aggressively. Now you can set this up however you want, and everyone's going to have their own personalized setup that you could talk about for hours. I'm just going to go through a couple of things briefly. I've got more of a Kinesis setup with the thumb clusters, where that is backspace, delete, enter, and space. And around there, I've got some other things which are pretty cool. Like, for example, that is mouse wheel scroll down and mouse wheel scroll up. And I've got a really handy feature that I set up on this key here. You notice when I press this, all of the colors change. The backlights change below. You can set that up to any color, and you can do all sorts of really cool stuff with this backlight, which I'll show in a sec. and all the keys change and everything. And one of the things I've got this doing here, over here with this cluster, is the mouse. So here, that's left click, and that's right click up there. And this is up, down, left, right. And so you can just really just use it like to move the mouse around on the screen like this. And when I've not got that active, then that's like up, down, left, right. So it's still the up, down, left, right. But then when I hold that down, now I've got mouse up, down, left, right, and click, click. These are both left click, and that's right click. And so you can essentially have a mouse built into the keyboard, and you don't even need to touch the mouse. Unless you're going to do something like really mouse heavy, then obviously you just use a mouse. But especially if you're on Linux, just having that, and now you've got your mouse at your fingertips, well, that's super useful, because then I don't even have to move my hands off of the keyboard. Now, some of these keys I'm going to pull off and move about at a later date, because they don't actually reflect what are on there. I'm so used to having nothing telling me what is on the keys that I wasn't really in a hurry to reorganize the actual keycaps. But of course you can do that with the included accessory. Now, there's some features about this keyboard which I didn't even know until I discovered them by accident. So you can get the glow on the bottom, and you can set that up to whatever color you want. But what I didn't know is, if we look at the software just here with old school screen sharing, you see around the screen you can click on a whole bunch of these different bits. It's like, well, why can't I just like do all of it at the same time? Well, you can, but if I change just that, look, it will literally change just that. And if I go to the one next to it and make that blue, for example, let's do that now, boom, it's blue right next to it. And if I go to another one, change this one to orange, boom. So you've got kind of extreme granularity in how you can configure the underglow, and how you can configure every single aspect of this keyboard is just ridiculously configurable. One thing you might ask is, why are there 8 keys per side, 16 in total for the thumb cluster? It seems a bit much, right? The Kinesis has somewhat less. Well, I find when I'm using this keyboard, especially with Linux, all the shortcuts and the functionality, I use each and every one of these buttons on both sides. And it's incredibly useful, because then I don't have to switch layers and stuff, and I've got all of the functionality there. And it works in a way where I can actually reach it all, and it's actually useful. So it seems like overkill at first, and the way that Mikhail explained it to me is that it's not necessarily that you need to use all of them. You can just choose the ones that fit most to you, because people got different sized and shaped hands and stuff. But I'm like, no, I'm using all of them. Now, one area where the Defy definitely falls behind the Kinesis keyboard is in battery life. It maybe lasts for a week before you need to charge it, whereas the Kinesis keyboard lasts for ages before you need to charge it. Now, they said that through a firmware update, they might improve the battery life significantly at a later date by suspending in a more advanced way, but currently the firmware that I have, the battery life only lasts for about a week. So I'm guessing the people who aren't into computers or keyboards, they're probably tuned out long ago, thinking, how can this guy speak for so long about a keyboard? Next. But everyone who's still here can probably appreciate what goes into designing a decent keyboard, and hot swappable switches and all this kind of more advanced stuff that you get with a premium, higher quality product. But even the people who get it, who understand the productivity gains, who understand what a split mechanical keyboard is with hot swappable mechanical switches, people who get that, they still say, okay, well, these keyboards are still outrageously expensive. So it's not like 20 quid, but it's the same thing as anything. It's the cost per hour that you're actually using it. If you break it down that way, then this keyboard is dirt cheap. It's the same as many things. A lot of people will go out and buy a suit so that they can go for a wedding once. I'll go out and spend hundreds and hundreds on a suit, but I'm going to wear it out and until that suit is done, right? And my cost per use is low, despite the fact that someone might go out and buy some cheap rubbish suit made out of polyester, and they're going to wear it once. Well, their cost per use is higher than mine when I've spent more on the suit, but I've actually worn it out. So don't buy any of these expensive keyboards if you're not going to use these. But if you're going to use them as your main daily thing, you're sitting in front of your computer for, I don't know, 8 hours or however many hours a day, the amount of hours that you're going to be using this particular tool, and then you divide that by the purchase price, it's like, it's almost free if you think of it that way. Versus something that is very expensive if if you only use it once or twice or not at all. So both of these keyboards are absolutely S tier, but for different reasons. And between these two, I'm convinced that that's it. Like, these two are the pinnacle. That's the king of the ergonomics. But if you don't need the concave keywell or the tenting, or you want it to be flatter, lower profile on the desk, then the Defy is absolutely outrageously good, and can't recommend this keyboard enough. This is fantastic. Both of these are S tier king keyboards. I'm done now with split mechanical keyboards. If someone gets in contact, like, try my keyboard, no, these two are everything that I'll ever need in keyboards, one or the other, for different reasons. These are both S tier. And now the theme of split mechanical keyboards is done on my channel, because this is it. These two are it.